Welcome back to another episode of Christian Natural Health. Today, I'm very pleased to have Sandy Martin with us. Sandy is the author of Biological Edge, A Practical Guide to Longevity, and the founder of the bioEDGE Longevity Summit, where practitioners, researchers, and health explorers gather to connect and explore what it truly means to live well longer. She speaks about longevity, health decision-making, and the growing noise of the wellness industry. Her work encourages audiences to slow down, ask better questions, and focus on the foundations that allow the body to work as it was designed. Welcome, Sandy. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you so much, Lauren. I really appreciate being here.
Yeah, for sure. So, in your book, you tell your personal story, your journey that kind of led you to all of this. And I think you said you spent $97,000.
That's
Uh,
just the first year.
what?
That was,
Trying to find. Okay, so tell people your story and how you got to, like, I guess set us up for how you ended up where you are now.
yeah, I was running a company with my now ex-husband, and an events company running Comic Cons.
Hmm.
And we were accustomed to long days, nights, weeks, working really hard. And then everything kind of came to a screeching halt with COVID. We had to give about $400,000 in refunds and kind
Ouch.
of sit around for a couple of weeks figuring out what to do next. We're
Sure.
not the kind to sit around for long.
Yeah.
So we created a virtual business out of this
Uh-huh.
and ended up that year with the largest celebrity meet and greet business in the world for GalaxyCon.
Yeah.
And it was amazing. And then in
Yeah.
September, I took what was kind of piecemeal, like just barely strung together a
Mhm.
framework of an idea
Yeah.
and built an e-commerce system myself to make
Uh-huh.
it work.
Okay.
Then
Wow.
in October,
Huh.
I couldn't run reports on the system I myself had built. I couldn't reason through it.
Oh,
And I didn't know what was wrong with me.
right.
And so I was like, oh, God, I fried a circuit. Like
Sure. Yeah.
I really burned out. And I
Uh-huh.
didn't have COVID. It wasn't like it something had happened
Mm-hmm.
that I was aware of,
Right.
but something definitely happened that I didn't realize happened.
Right.
But in that time, it felt like so the brain likes to come up with quick answers to things because it hates uncertainty.
Mhm. Yep.
So my brain said, aha, we've seen this before. This is depression. And
Uh,
I was like, I don't think so. I really
right.
love my life. Really
Yeah.
proud of the work I've done. I
Yeah.
know I just worked really hard, but that's
Right.
the best work I've ever done. And
Yeah.
I'm really happy about it. And
Sure.
brain went, depression. And I was
Yeah.
like, I don't know. So I started to explore and I took a couple days off and
Mm-hmm.
then I got worse.
Mm-hmm.
And then I took some more days off. And it was about 2 weeks that I really settled down to just handing tasks off and
Yeah.
figuring out how to calm my nervous system. And
Hmm.
I was getting worse.
Yeah.
And I didn't know what was going on. So I booked an appointment with a neurologist right away. I got in to see him a couple weeks later,
Okay.
and he ran a brain scan that said I had a TBI, but I didn't hit my head.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so they performed the scan wrong.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't know. My doctor didn't know. I didn't know. The tech was not properly trained. And I
Right.
was in a room waiting, lying down because I was sleepy.
Mm-hmm.
And I closed my eyes and meditated. So my frontal lobe got real quiet because
Ah,
my eyes
okay.
were closed. My vision center got
Sure.
quiet. So it
Yeah.
looked like I hit my head.
I
And I got diagnosed as having so bad a head trauma that I couldn't remember hitting my head
Oh my goodness.
because
Wow.
doctors don't believe patients.
Right. Yeah, my goodness. That's
I
crazy.
said, I said, the only time I really hit my head, I was 10. He's
Yeah.
like, nah, that could be that. I see
Oh,
it all the time. And he was just really dismissive of anything that, like, how could I suddenly go from excellence to an inability to work?
mm-hmm.
And so he recommended hyperbaric oxygen therapy. And that's where the bulk of the money went in
Mm-hmm.
that first year. Because it was $20,000 worth of treatments that he recommended. When I
Yeah.
went to the clinic, the doctor there suggested I do it at home with a mild
Mhm.
unit. And he
Right.
wanted me to rent it. That was
Uh-huh.
going to be 16,000 and I could buy one for 27. So
Uh-huh.
I bought one.
Okay.
And that's where the bulk of that first money went. But then the rest of the money mostly was supplements.
Oh my goodness, that's crazy.
and bad doctors. So I
Right.
just kind of cycled through the bad doctors.
Yeah.
I and I saw two functional medicine doctors that led me astray. It's
Right.
very hard to find people who will hear you when your situation's complex.
Sure, yeah. And
Um,
so was there sort of a pattern of approach that you noticed that between, the neurologist, more allopathic model and the functional medicine model, what would you say you've noticed in terms of how they approach trying to find root cause, or are they trying to find root cause?
well, everyone that I met with, my doctor now is a doctor of Oriental medicine. So I see an acupuncturist
Okay.
who is basically a naturopath
Right.
in
Yeah,
practice, right?
sure.
And he's the only one who's given me consistently good advice.
Hmm.
Every other person I met with was an MD,
Hmm.
even if they were practicing functional.
Got it. Okay.
And so the neurologist, that test he gave me was not a standard. He was outside of the mainstream. He gave me
Mhm.
a SPECT scan like Dr. Daniel Amen.
Right.
And so all along the way, I got reasonable outside of the traditional medicine world or conventional
Yeah.
medicine world. I thought I was being progressive.
Hmm.
But when the second doctor because my gynecologist knew of a functional medicine practitioner that took insurance.
Hmm.
So I went to see her.
Yeah.
But I didn't go to see her until I was pretty sure it was mold. And that was 5 months later.
Yeah.
I had to, once figured out I wasn't going to take the drug that the neurologist wanted me to take,
Sure.
it was a stroke drug. I had to, I, I know bad advice all the way
Yeah.
through.
Yeah.
I had to take matters into my own hands, but I screwed up too. So
Yeah.
it wasn't like that was an easy road.
Sure.
I really don't recommend going it alone in this.
Right.
You got to find somebody to
Hmm.
guide you through and help you be reasonable.
Hmm.
I was not reasonable,
Hmm.
but every step along the way, there was something that I just in the end, after I'd gotten enough advice,
Hmm.
I recognized I could do all the right things and it would just take time.
Hmm. So, how did you come to the conclusion that this might be mold? Did you see it? Did you smell it? What happened?
So I was listening to a book that Dave Asprey had written,
Right. Okay.
and he spoke of his SPECT scan with Dr. Amen,
Hmm.
and he had a slide on it that represented a toxic pattern.
Hmm.
And I recalled from my own scans that I had that one slice that
Yeah,
suggested a toxic pattern
I see.
and no history of drug abuse.
Sure.
And so he was the same. And Dr. Amen asked him about mold, and
Hmm.
he had grown up in a moldy environment.
Hmm.
And it's probably what led him to be 300 pounds in his 20s
Hmm.
and having all of these autoimmune conditions that he had because of the mold.
Sure.
That gaining a lot of weight like that is a protective mechanism of the body.
Hmm.
So the body knows what to do to protect us most of the time.
Yeah.
And it just, it's not always the best thing in the long run, but it's the best thing maybe to
The
fight
moment.
mold is to
Sure.
sequester it in some fat cells. Like my
Exactly.
ex-husband was a really heavy guy,
Uh-huh.
and his fat cells protected him
Right.
from the exposure in ways that my body did not.
Right.
I didn't have the reserves to be able to keep it out of my brain.
So, in retrospect, knowing that once you saw the functional MRI slice, you said that I believe it was a September that all of a sudden everything started. Was there a leak in that September in
I,
retrospect that
I
happened?
painted an area
Okay. Okay.
that I suspect had been wet for decades.
I see. Okay.
And I didn't know it was wet. When I painted it, the paint dripped down the wall.
Got it.
And then just like it was just dripping. And I thought, that's weird. But
Uh-huh.
I didn't really know. I didn't know the danger.
Yeah.
And I didn't know it was behind the wall. I
Right.
didn't see any mold.
And that's always the challenge with mold. Sometimes it's really obvious. Sometimes people can say, oh, yeah, there was a leak around this time if you probe the
Yeah.
questions. But
Yeah.
a lot of times it's not super obvious and you have to find it on imaging or something along those lines. Or sometimes I'll go fish for biotoxin markers. And if we see that,
Yeah.
then we'll have to then say, okay, let's go dig a little bit deeper and
Right.
see we can find the smoking gun. But yeah, that's sometimes it can be really challenging. But one of the things that I loved about your approach in the book was that you were talking about you want to subtract, and in naturopathic lingo, we would say remove the obstacle to cure. So this is the
Mm,
therapeutic order. Find if there's something in your environment, and that's one thing that from I think a lot of functional medicine approaches, even if they are aware of the detox process, sometimes they detox the body too early because if you do that too quickly and you don't have all of the foundational building blocks in place, you're going to make somebody sicker.
yeah,
But environmental component of identify and remove any external building block or any external obstacles to cure is absolutely critical before you start trying to give the body building blocks that it needs and maybe extra supplements and all the rest of it because you're
right.
working at cross purposes without that. I thought that's such an important point that I think doesn't get communicated often enough, even in functional medicine circles.
And doctors are quick to ask us our family history.
Right.
You know, what did
Right.
your grandmother die from?
Sure.
But not what does your home look like?
Right. Exactly.
What is more relevant to my current health,
Right.
my current living situation,
Sure.
or how my grandma died?
Right. Yeah. And one of my favorite questions to ask someone, especially when I'm getting the first foundational story, is when did all of this start and what was going on at the time? So if we can
Mm,
get the clear timeline, sometimes there was one trigger event and it sounds like you had it. And once you went back and you figured out this was the timeline when everything switched, and then you put together mold, then you could figure out what it was. Sometimes it's not one thing, it's a tipping point where there's a whole bunch of components that all stack up and you can handle it and you can handle it and you can handle it. And then there's the straw that broke the camel's back. And then you have to kind of work your way backwards. So it's not always as obvious as just one moment, but sometimes it is. And if you can find that, then you can figure out what that obstacle to cure probably was. And is it
mhm.
still there? And do we need to deal with that before we add in the rest of the building blocks?
And do
Yeah.
you see with your clients that that's more so with women? I have a theory about estrogen and
Mhm.
how it comes to stack for so long.
Mhm.
The
Ah,
fertility hormones protect us
mhm.
from inflammation.
Well, that's definitely true. So yeah,
And
there.
so I think that's why we get to this tipping point in our mid 40s when
Mhm,
our hormones start to shift. We
mhm.
have this superpower to
Yeah,
power through
right.
because of our fertility hormones.
Yeah.
And when that starts to taper off,
Mhm.
then suddenly our bodies are like, what is this?
Mhm.
And it's
So,
not that something changed, it's that
right,
we've been abusing ourselves for years.
right,
And
yeah,
suddenly our protective layer is just coming down. Do you
right.
see that?
Yes, but I'd frame it slightly differently, even though I think what you're saying is true. But I think largely what happens is, and this is true at the end of every cycle too, not just in perimenopause, menopause,
Oh.
where all of your hormones are declining right before you bleed. And when that happens,
Mm.
the adrenals are the ones that have to pick up the slack. So that's your body's natural anti-inflammatory hormone. They produce
Oh.
DHEA, which is the precursor for testosterone and estrogen. And then the precursor for cortisol is progesterone. So that's like they're picking up the slack for all of that the whole time. So a lot
Mm.
of times in the luteal phase for a woman that is younger and maybe doesn't isn't going into perimenopause yet, that's when you unmask symptoms. Or alternatively,
Oh.
if there's some other environmental trigger that is an inflammatory issue, I'll phrase it like this for a lot of people that if you think of your overall inflammatory load, if it's here and your ability to handle it, your cortisol level is here, you're fine, you don't have any problems. But as soon as either your cortisol drops or your inflammatory load goes up, now you have a problem. And it's just that you could have had it all along, but it was masked. Once you've unmasked it, whether that's allergy season, sometimes it's got nothing to do with hormones. It's just that now we've added an extra allergic load, an extra inflammatory load on top of everything else.
Mm.
Then now suddenly we've unmasked something that we could handle before. There's lots of different possibilities. That's one of them, though. So there's certainly plenty, but usually there's some piece of the story where if the insult was a long time ago, there's still a reason it showed up now, and we have to unravel what it is. Yeah.
I, I never knew any of that.
Yeah. And you had to figure it all out the hard way, it sounds like.
Yeah, I think you could write a whole book about the unmasking
Mhm. Yep. Yep.
because I I like I'm aware of it with cortisol to some extent, but I think we also have that with insulin too, don't we?
Hmm.
That's what
So
keeps our glucose in check until it can't.
until it can't. So, and that you could, extrapolate further. Your body is this intricate feedback mechanism with absolutely everything. So everything is in this tight, regulated balance. And there's buffer zones around those things, and you can compensate, compensate, compensate until you can't. And now all of a sudden, something gets unmasked, essentially. But the issue has been going on for a very long time. Certainly true for insulin as well. So insulin resistance becomes it's the boy that cried wolf. So your body is just ignoring that signal for a while because it's like, oh yeah, we've seen that forever. And then suddenly you get to a place where you can't handle it anymore, where it becomes over diabetes or something along those lines. But yeah,
Hmm.
that's absolutely another one of them. But the body is so brilliantly designed.
Yeah.
Its ability to heal itself is incredible. But I think part of what makes the difference in naturopathic medicine, functional medicine, that kind of perspective is that we recognize that it is smart. And if you identify and remove
Mm.
obstacles to cure and give it the building blocks that it needs to heal, within reason, healing ought to follow. And if it doesn't, you're missing something. Keep digging. So, right.
I didn't know that that was the founding principle of naturopathic medicine. I would
Mhm.
have
Yeah.
sought a naturopath a long time ago had I understood, because it is exactly what I believe.
Right. Therapeutic order. And that was what I really loved about your book was essentially you were saying you'd figured out what the foundational principles were of naturopathic medicine and found a different way to phrase it, but you
Yeah.
did it from a totally different route. And unfortunately, it sounds like it was kind of a miserable route. But
Well, I keep saying I'm going to make a t-shirt that says learning the hard way since 1975.
aw. Yep, absolutely. But now you've turned it around and turned it into a summit. So how
Yeah.
did that come about? And like how many times have you done it? What's your goal for doing the summit?
Well, it's funny because I should have mentioned this before the call. I ran
Uh-huh.
two summits in Miami called Biohacker Expo,
Okay.
and then I intended to run another one this summer in New
Uh-huh.
York City.
Uh-huh.
And I don't know what's going on this year. I couldn't pull it together.
Interesting.
And so I had to cancel it
Oh.
and do a massive pivot, another learning the hard way.
Oh,
And I'm happy to be vulnerable about that in front of people.
sure.
It's really hard to fail, but it's harder to fail other people. And
Sure.
so summits involve attendees and exhibitors and
Sure.
so many stakeholders that
Yeah.
come for a reason.
Yeah.
And if I can't deliver on that, I don't want to let 50 to 150 to 1500 down. Like it
Mhm.
doesn't, it's
Mhm.
too much.
Sure. Yeah.
That's too much a burden. And so I had to cut my losses and
Right.
walk away.
Yeah.
And
Well,
so
and that's a huge stress right there too, I would imagine.
it
So,
is,
yeah. How do
but
you,
it was also its own stress
right. Oh,
by
sure.
carrying all of that on my nervous system.
Right. Yeah.
And you know what happened was that, and I hindsight, this is a repeating pattern in my life.
Yeah.
On the way to meet my new business partner, where we were going to firm up plans to join forces and do a thing,
Hmm.
I spent 4 hours on the plane writing a book treatment for my next book,
Hmm.
and it poured out of me, and it was like my whole body, mind, and soul was telling me what I wanted to do. And
Hmm.
then I said, all right, flight's over, put that aside, let's go do the business thing.
Okay.
And I
Yeah.
didn't honor my truth.
Yeah.
And that next book is Love for Longevity.
Hmm.
And it's halfway done now because
Yeah.
in the wake of it, I have the space to honor what really is true for me.
Right.
And I think we do this in our emotions and in our life the same way we do it in our body. We compensate and compensate, and we think we know what's best, and we give it all we've got until it collapses. And
Hmm.
then we have to stare building blocks in the face and
Yeah.
start over again and again and again.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah, and one of the things that you mentioned in the book was that you kind of went through a cognitive reframe of the experience of brain fog, trying to see it as a gift almost. That
yeah.
sounds like it's quite difficult, and maybe it sounds like you're having to do it with this as well. Talk about that process. How did you come to that realization?
There was the symptom of brain fog is really better described as like buffering. Like if you remember when we
Yeah.
didn't have broadband and Netflix was buffering or
Right.
the spinny wheel on the Mac, like
Sure. Right.
I was frozen in time at various points throughout the day,
Yeah.
just stuck. Like I'd open the kitchen cabinet to get something and just, how long have I been here?
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And and then I was listening to podcasts with Jill Bolte Taylor. She did the first TED Talk ever called My Stroke of Insight. She was a neuroanatomist who had a stroke in her left hemisphere
Oh,
and
wow.
witnessed it as a neuroanatomist.
Yeah.
And then she was in a coma for a few years.
Oh,
And she rebuilt her life
gee.
and gave this TED Talk. And then people were like, you have to tell us how you did it. And then she
Right.
wrote the book Whole Brain Living. And
Mhm.
in that book, she describes how the brain governs patterns, and one being presence, that the
Right.
right hemisphere of the brain is really about presence.
Mhm.
And the left is about categorization and labels and analysis, and ego is there perhaps.
Mhm.
And I lost everything I knew to be me,
Mhm.
everything I was good at, everything I identified with. I lost the ability to judge. I
Mhm.
couldn't make decisions. I had to get a car during this time, and because my lease was up, I had to make a decision and I could not. I asked my brother to tell me what car to get
Uh-huh.
because
Wow.
I couldn't come to a conclusion. I tried for a month and I was like, just tell me.
Yeah.
I could pick a person that I trusted. It
Yeah.
was not my then husband. He
Yeah.
would have told me something ridiculous. And I knew that
Right.
that was obvious.
Sure.
My brother was a very sensible person and he
Yeah.
picked for me.
Mhm.
Um, but then when I realized that I was stuck in presence,
Mhm.
no longer was I buffering,
Mhm.
I had unlocked a portal that I never knew.
Interesting.
And so when I was feeling lost,
Uh-huh.
I could still read, I had my intellect, but I lacked the processing. I lacked the short-term memory. I couldn't commit to
Mhm.
memory and I couldn't really communicate to anyone anything that I had absorbed. But I
Mhm.
could read words and experience a book in the moment.
Mhm.
I was researching and experiencing the research in the moment. And so it had some effect on me, but not in an articulate way.
Okay.
And so I sat by the pool and read books, and I read books like No Self, No Problem,
Okay.
books that were mirroring what I was
Where you were
experiencing.
right. Sure.
And so this whole Buddhist idea of letting go of the ego and being in presence, there's
Mhm.
no way I could have conceived of that in my prior life.
Yeah.
But then I was like, oh, it was almost like a psychedelic journey. Like, oh, look at this
Mhm.
world
Right.
that I never knew existed.
Yeah.
And so now I've seen the world
Uh-huh.
because the left side of my brain got so quiet that this other world opened up. And I
Uh-huh.
resisted it as a
Mhm.
symptom and as a problem until I listened to those podcasts with Jill.
Mhm.
And once I did that, everything changed for me. And
Mhm.
I said, okay, I don't know how long it's going to take for me to get back any part of what I knew to be me,
Mhm.
but I was never going to find this with her.
Yeah.
So let's just dive in. And if we can rebuild from presence, that's what we'll do.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Wow. So from a biblical standpoint, I'm thinking there's a verse that says all things work together for the good of those who love God and who are called according to his purpose. And it sounds like this was essentially taking something that was, that the enemy meant for evil and turning it for good, kind of a thing, where you're taking the gift that is in a really negative situation and finding something positive out of it.
mhm.
So now that you're past the mold, hopefully you're fully detoxed and all of that, I
I
assume.
believe I am.
Yeah,
I don't
excellent.
want to test
Right.
because I
Yeah.
feel good. I
Yeah.
don't need to
Let's let
know
that.
there's a little this or that
Sure. Yeah, yeah.
lurking around.
Absolutely. Yeah. But now that you're there and you feel like presumably the brain fog is lifted, how can you take the lesson that you learned then about being fully present and bring it into this moment?
Oh, that's what came out of this this challenge this month, letting go of
Yeah, I'll
my
bet.
identity in events, right?
Right. Yeah.
Um, my best friend is an Enneagram coach.
Hmm.
And about a month ago, I took the Enneagram. Have you ever taken this? Do you have any
I know
exposure
what it
to it?
is, but I don't think I've taken it. Yeah.
Um, I responded, it's not really a personality profile test, but it kind of is. But there's a deep root in spirituality to it.
Hmm.
And I came to understand that, well, there's a Christian branch of it and a spiritual branch of it, but
Hmm.
what underlines both is presence.
Hmm.
And you have to be present with who you are
Hmm.
in order to be your most complete, honest, authentic self. And
Okay.
that presence is how you get there. So maybe presence through prayer,
Hmm.
presence through practice, presence is the
Being in the
root.
moment. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Of
Um, and I recognized I was living my life 99.5% in the future because events are always out there.
course. Yeah.
And I made a decision this week that I would remake my life where
Hmm.
my work
Hmm.
happens in presence.
Hmm.
My contribution in the present moment
Yeah.
is my work,
Hmm.
and not to continuously reach out,
Hmm.
but to deliver value now and now and now.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
that's the biggest change, I think, for me going forward. And I don't know what will come of that as I get better at it.
Yeah.
It's not easy.
No, definitely not, especially if it's your learned pattern to be otherwise. I mean, certainly there's a
Mm-hmm.
habitual component to that, but I'm also trying to remember who wrote the book. There was a book I read not that long ago that was on essentially the neurochemistry of certain personality types and what you're describing of the concept of somebody who's always living out in the future is somebody who's very dopamine driven, which is always
Mm-hmm.
looking for that next little hit, that next reward. But people who are dopamine driven, they're maybe excited about the next thing, they're motivated, but satisfaction tends to be found from more serotonin and release of adrenaline, which happens in this exact moment.
Yeah.
They are kind of opposed to one another, and
Yeah.
especially dopamine and serotonin, they're like a seesaw.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to create this balance, and some people are genetically going to be more predisposed to one versus another in terms of how much of each one of them they make, how much sticks around, how much gets broken down. But it helps to explain a lot of personality types and why it's so difficult for someone who's focused on one to choose to shift to the other. But it's probably a
And
place where
then
there's more satisfaction, right?
I believe there might be.
Yeah, we'll see.
We'll see. But
Right,
the body has the parasympathetic and sympathetic
right.
autonomic branches that also do that same seesaw.
Yep.
And I've definitely been stuck in sympathetic
Hmm.
drive,
Yep.
and finding ways to reduce that, through
Hmm.
chanting or other practices.
Hmm.
Sometimes it's hard to get the body to just go, but you can't just tell the body to relax. It
Right,
doesn't just do it.
right.
So that's where sometimes the health optimization stuff comes in too. You can
Hmm.
use a device or a technique that can
Hmm.
help
Right.
when one gets stuck on the seesaw on one
Yeah,
end or the other.
right. Absolutely. So the new book that you're so passionately working on now, what's kind of the main premise of that?
That love is fundamental.
Hmm.
God is love.
Hmm.
That we are antennas, and that we can tune in or tune out,
Okay.
and that love is everywhere, and that if we want the benefits of more love in our lives,
Mm-hmm.
we have to figure out how to attune ourselves towards that end. And when we do,
Hmm.
immune regulation goes up, clarity comes into
Hmm.
being, and there are all of these tracked physiological, biological biomarkers of love.
Yeah, right.
And so we'll get into that and how that supports not just a wonderful life, but a
Right.
long, wonderful life.
Right. Yeah. So let's say that old you never went through the experience of the mold and the forced slowing down. What would you say to that version of yourself to communicate what you've learned? To say, do you feel like that person could have learned the lesson in any other way?
When I was a teenager in college, I said to my best friend, the same one,
Hmm.
I said, I said, all I want to do is put love in the world. And she said, Sandy, you can't make a job out of that. She's so practical.
Yeah, very.
And I was like, oh. And now I think she knows exactly how I
Mhm.
can
Right.
um, find my way without going broke,
Hmm.
leading with love,
Yeah.
however that comes to be.
Hmm.
But I always knew.
Hmm.
And in 2018, I wrote a children's book called Love Prince.
Hmm.
And it's a story that I told my nephew when he was 5.
Hmm.
I said, did you know that if you ask your heart for love, it'll just give it to you?
Hmm.
And he goes, oh, yeah, I know. When I ask my heart for love, it gives me so much love. It comes out of the top of my head and my feet. And when I walk, I leave love prints. And so
Aw.
I published a children's book based on that story.
That's
And so
adorable.
it's been coming up for me. And I became friends with Howard Martin at HeartMath.
Hmm.
I got introduced to that whole mindset in 2013 when I was really struggling. And then we became friends in 2017 and we're great friends today. And
Hmm.
so the thread has been there.
Hmm.
It's like the soul wants us to see, and
Hmm.
then life, like it's that protective mechanism,
Yeah.
the emotional protection that
Hmm.
we put on through personality, through grit, through whatever it is that we do to get through life,
Hmm.
you know, not believing we're enough, whatever it is that drives the fork towards the down the well-trodden path,
Hmm. Yeah.
you know?
So, to what extent do you now think, or do you think that your experiences building the Comic-Cons and in organizing all of that contributed to what you're doing now?
Oh gosh, that's a good question. Um, hmm, I don't know.
Hmm.
It feels like an alternate universe.
Really
Yeah.
interesting.
It just feels like a different time and place.
Hmm.
Um, I mean, it could absolutely be part of the Spider Verse. Just it's a
Hmm.
different, it's
Yeah.
yeah, a,
Hmm.
a different quantum reality. Like
Sure. Yeah.
I don't I don't accept that I would not have been in the place I was in
Hmm. Hadn't
for
that,
that brain injury
right.
if it hadn't been for all that.
Right. Yeah.
And so if there is I think I got a few signals along the way to
Mhm.
shift my life that I
Yeah.
ignored.
Hmm. Yeah.
And I believe there's an intelligence to mold. I mean, fungi was here before us and it powers the forests and
Yeah.
it's the communication network of forests.
Mhm.
So maybe maybe it was put there.
Something going on. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know, but I accept that it's not an accident and that I was there and it was there and I I don't fight that this had to happen in my life.
Something good
Um,
came from it. Yeah.
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 And I'm probably a little biased to look for the silver lining on things.
Well, sure. That's a
Um,
good
but
bias.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't want to dwell, but
Right. Yeah.
that was definitely just an alternate
Yeah.
reality for me.
Gotcha. Sounds good. So, what have I not asked you that you want to make sure you leave with our audience?
I want to share with people the very easy thing I do to calm myself down
Okay.
because I think that can help anyone. And it I learned this by using HeartMath's Inner Balance app and their sensor. I
Uh-huh.
couldn't get there through heart focused breathing, which is their recommendation.
Hmm.
So I breathe in for 5 seconds and I hum out for 5 seconds. And I do this for 3 minutes. And I can track my HRV doubling on my Apple Watch when I do it.
Wow.
And so, but before meetings, if I'm stuck in overdrive, I'll do it in the car.
Yeah.
Um, but the meditation app on the watch
Hmm.
will do the 5 second pacing.
Hmm.
So I just follow it.
Hmm.
And that synchronizes, that's the optimal amount for taking in oxygen in the lungs. and
Hmm.
it synchronizes the brain, the lungs, and the heart all together to create the coherence that heart math talks about. But it's just the simplest thing. I don't have to think about anything. I just breathe in for 5 seconds and I hum out for 5 seconds
Uh-huh.
for about
Yeah.
3 minutes. You can do it for a minute, but I think 3 minutes is the optimal time.
Right. Good to know. Awesome. So, where can people go to learn more about you and all the various things that you're doing?
Find me at bioedgelongevity.com.
Awesome. So, I will link to that in the show notes. And thank you so much, Sandy. This has been great.
Thank you, Lauren.
Absolutely.